Kind of funny today. Let's see, 1 second. Let's go on YouTube here. Make sure that works. I'm gonna leave everyone in suspense here. Got a great topic, but funny today. Okay, 1 second. Okay, good. Great. All right, we are there. We are there. All right, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Sorry, a little bit of delay. Wasn't my fault. Usually it is my fault. This technical issue. Someone asked, very interesting question. I mean, they're all definitely interesting, but this gets to the heart about reincarnation a little bit, and that is, can a child, someone under the age of 20, right, suffer a lot, be suffering due to past life sins, right? Maybe 1 second. Let me just let me just see one thing here. Yeah, let me just see one thing. Why'd they bring this up? Yeah, Rashi says in this week's parsha, we'll just actually clarify. Rashi says that Sarah was 127, right? 127 years, right? So that doesn't say 127. So Rashi says, right, the years divide up Sarah's life into three periods, right? Each one its own uniqueness, each one had its own certain characteristic. At 100, she was as sinless as 20, because until the age of 20, see, Rashi says this, or Chizkuni, others say it as well, that until the age of 20, a person does not suffer heavenly punishment, right? Even over the age of 13, where a person is liable, becomes an adult, male, female at 12 in a day, a male at 13, right? Normally their punishment at that age, right, for things that they might do wrong. Regardless, over here it says, just make clear, right, over here it says that you don't get punished at the age of 20, right? Heavenly punishment. So at 20, she has the wholesome beauty of a 7-year-old, does not use cosmetics and beauty. And Moshe Feinstein comment, child's beauty is pure, never used to tempt others to go astray. That was part of her greatness, even though she had great beauty. She was very pure. So now, the question came up, according to what was said, that a child or someone under the age of 20, right, is not going to suffer, right? They're not going to be punished, right? They're not going to be punished over here, right? At least till the age of 20. Now, what about someone who suffers a lot? What about someone who's a child or till the age of 20? Let's say there's no suffering by the age, until the age of 20, right? Let's say. So what if they suffer a lot due to past life sins, right? Reincarnation. In other words, most people reincarnated today, probably 3 times, maybe 4 times maximum that a person can come back to this world. So what do you have? What do you have? You have somebody, let's say they're back in this world and they're suffering for whatever reason. Let's say they're mentally challenged. They have illness. They have all kinds of other things they're suffering through, right? They're suffering due to past life sins, right? As was quoted before. The fact that they could be suffering for things they might have done in the past, right? So the question is, can a child or someone under the age of 20, they suffer a lot due to past life sins? They don't suffer for sins in their childhood. If the answer is no, is another reason some people have to go through abuse or suffering as a child, right? So basically, what's the answer here? The answer is like this. The answer is that even if you say that you shouldn't, it's not divine punishment, right? Even if we're going to say it's not divine punishment right now. Yeah, so the question would be, okay, right? According to what we said before, let's keep in mind, right? Let's keep in mind what was said before. And that is that a person till the age of 20 does not suffer heavenly punishment. So that may be true to a point, but you have to ask the question like this, that if someone is born mentally challenged, they're born that way, Down syndrome, autistic, fill in the blank, whatever God forbid, terrible disease or mental illness a person may have at birth. We'll make it easy. At birth, they're born with it, right? Physical issues. Okay. Right now, if that is true, then what we said before, that Chizkuni, Rashi brings down, is that really you shouldn't get punished. Shouldn't be heavily punished, right? So if that would be true, now let's analyze. We said a person's not punished normally till the age of bar mitzvah or till the age of 20, right? Until the age of 20. Now, if the soul is put in a messed up body, the soul itself has to come back to this world in order to fix up whatever it did wrong. Now, when that child is born mentally challenged, right? We're not going to say, has mental issues here because, I don't really have that as a baby per se. Well, but they're they're physically challenged. Let's say they're severely physically challenged. Now, what's the question? The question is, if they're physically challenged right now, we said there's no heavenly punishment, right? There's no heavenly punishment. What does that mean? If you say there's no heavenly punishment, why are they physically challenged? That's punishment. Seemingly, it's punishment, right? So normally when we say there's no heavenly punishments, at least till the age of 20, that's when a person actually does something wrong. See, a child's not going to get necessarily punished. Let's say a child did something wrong. We'll make it easy. A child, 7 or 8 year old playing ball, throws the ball, hits someone's car window, hits someone's window in their house, breaks the window. Are they liable? No. Because they're underage. They're not liable. But even if they're not liable because they're underage, the halacha is parents should pay for it. Really, beyond their letter of the law. Parents should pay for it. But technically speaking, the child's not liable. Now, once the child is 13, right, 13 in a day, or for a girl, 12 in a day, then they can get punished. Then there can be heavenly punishment. God could put off the heavenly punishment till they're 20. But that's punishment for someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who's already got the status of an adult. When a child is born physically handicapped, I don't even know if you're allowed to say that anymore, right? Or they're mentally challenged. When they're born, we're not talking about this divine punishment. This is not the divine punishment we're talking about. Because essentially that child born, they're not being punished. The child itself is a physical body. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not liable, right? That's the same thing as what happened to Yishmael. Because what happened to Yishmael, Hagar turns away, she doesn't want to see him die. So the Medrash says, Rashi brings it down, let Yishmael die. They say to God, let him die. Look what he's going to do in the future. against the Jewish people. And how many people they're going to kill and maim and all that, God forbid. So knock him out of our misery now. Kill him now. Imagine, little old Adolf, right? He's a little baby. Strangle that sucker. Kill him. Because you know what he's going to do in the future. Oh, that's barbaric. But if you knew the future, you'd slaughter him. It doesn't matter if the cute little fat baby. You slaughter him. Yeah? What does God answer? What does God answer? He said, didn't you see the verse? The verse by Yishmael says, Basher Hu Sham. That which he is right now. Where he is right now. So what does it mean where he is now? It means God asked them, is he liable? Did this kid do anything wrong? He's liable to die. Yes or no? Angels have to say no. He's not liable. Because the verse over there, and we learn it by Yishmael of all people, right? The verse over there says, Basher Hu Sham. We just read it last week. So let him die. Very good. Problem is, he's not liable. If he's not liable, can't kill him. He's not liable now. You know what he's going to do in the future. So what? 100% he's not liable right now. So if he's not liable right now, you can't kill him. Right? But the punishment we're talking about, the punishment from heaven for something a person did physically in this world. Someone who's born mentally challenged, it's not their fault. Not their fault. There are repercussions for actions. For example, right? A woman who's pregnant, who smokes crack, her kid comes out deformed, comes out mentally challenged. Is that the problem of the child? No. There are repercussions, true. But God's going to put some soul in that messed up body for punishment for the soul. It's not punishment for the person. It's not punishment for the child. There are repercussions, okay? There are repercussions for action. But we're talking about two different types of punishment, right? Punishment for a child, even if they do something wrong, or even as an adult over the age of 13 or 12 in a day for a girl, they still might not be punished till the age of 20. That's what it's talking about. But a child who's born mentally challenged and whatever else goes with it, and all kinds of medical issues, that's punishment for the soul. That cannot be punishment for the child, because the child's not liable. It has to be there's something else going on, meaning that there's judgment, the soul gets judged, the soul can come back to this world to fix up whatever it's supposed to fix up. Right? And for some people, their soul is going to go into a messed up body or a messed up family, or you fill in the blank, whatever it may be. So it's not punishment for them. There are two different types of punishment. One's punishment for the body, right? When a person does something wrong in this world, they understand, they've done something wrong, or if they don't, doesn't matter. They could get punished even if they don't understand. Right? But they're going to be liable as an adult or until the age of 20, till after the age of 20. But when someone's born mentally challenged, that's not punishment on the body. That's not punishment on the person themselves. It's punishment for the soul that has to come back. So that answers the second question, because if that question, the answer was no, then they're going to say, what's the reason people have to go through abuse and suffering as children? Right? So let's say the answer was no. And that a person suffers in this world not because of their reincarnated soul, not because of what their soul has to go through. Let's say better, or let's say a little bit different. Why does a person have to suffer? Why does the person go through suffering? A lot of times no one's going to want to hear this. Why does the person suffer? Because you did it to yourself. Repercussions for your actions. But let's say that you didn't do anything wrong, right? The Gemara says if you didn't do anything wrong, right? Sorry, if something happened to you, you lost money, you suffered in some way, You have to look into your actions. Then you have to look into your actions. Now, let's say you don't find anything wrong with what you've done. That's probably unheard of. But let's say, I mean, we're not going to figure it out. It's going to be very hard to figure it out. But let's say in general that you didn't figure it out. You didn't do anything wrong. Let's say. So why is the person suffering? So the Gemara says, Yisurim Sha'ava. It's suffering because God loves you. You're going to say, what? God's a masochist? He wants me to suffer? No. What does suffering do? We say every day, right? Every guy should say it every day, that we don't want to have trials and tribulations. God shouldn't bring us to trials and tribulations. Very good. But how do you grow if you don't have them? Right? Something we always speak about. How do you grow if you don't have trials and tribulations? So someone will say, okay, if it's not because your soul had to go through it, then you had to suffer, so to speak, right? Then why go through it? Then why do you have to go through it? Good question. Doesn't it build courage? Doesn't it make us who we are? Doesn't it strengthen us? Anyone who's ever had, let's say, mental health issues, anyone who's ever had physical issues, let's say, livelihood issues, what a difficult issue someone's gone. Are they the same person before and after? They shouldn't be. Because if a person got the message and God's the one in charge, God's the one in charge, he runs the world, I can't do anything without him. So if I get the message and I realize it draws me closer to God, it helps me pray better, it helps me do a lot of things better, makes me a better person, even though maybe you're going to tell me you suffer like a dog. But aren't you better? Aren't you a better person? Would I be the same person today? I use myself as an example, as I always do, or sometimes. So if I had all the money in the world, which one time I did, then it's all gone, in the middle of the night, and then you're left holding the bag. That's kind of depressing, kind of demoralizing, right? It can make someone, go off the deep end, in many ways. But at the end of the day, I can speak about it and say I've been on both sides. I'm not going to say every day was good. Not going to say it was easy. But when you learn the chovos levavos and duties of the heart, what does he tell you? God's the one in charge. Right? He hit you, he used someone like a stick to get to you. So what are you going to get upset at him? I should have hugged the person. Okay, it wasn't at that level. I don't know if I'm at that level now. Right? But at the end of the day, I should have stood up and said, thank you for, it's an unbelievable thing I have to work on. This is unbelievable. You give me a golden opportunity. Golden opportunity. How many people holding there? I don't know. But I'll tell you what. It makes you realize, first of all, you're thankful for what, you have to be thankful for what you have when you have it. Not when you don't have it. But at the end of the day, even with all that turmoil, was I left starving? No. Was I ever left on the street? No. Okay, didn't mean I own my own place. Yeah, I was never on the street. Kids weren't starving. Plenty to be thankful for. Plenty to be thankful for. Was it always easy? No. Was it easy to see the light at the end of the tunnel? No. When it's black and when it's dark, you don't know which way to turn, what's going to be. You got all these bills. You have no idea how you're going to pay for it. So what does the chovos levavos say? Right? What does the chovos levavos say? This is what we have to live. And that is, I throw everything to him. God, you're the one in charge. How it's going to happen, I don't know. I got this bill needs to be paid in 2 days. How's it going to get paid? All right, I got to put my best foot forward. That's what we have to do. But guess what? Says the Chovos Levavos and Shar Bitachon, right? The gate of faith and belief in God. Says the Chovos Levavos, you put your best foot forward, you come up with a goose egg. Does it help? You have to do it. You have to put your best foot forward always. Is that a guarantee for success, as we always say? No. When you least expect it, expect it. I just saw something today. Unbelievable. Right? I'm always happy. I check my bank account. I was like, wow, it's a lot more money than I thought. It's worse when money goes out. And say, hey, where'd that money go? So I had something this morning. Check my bank account for something. And I want to see something went out or was going out. And all of a sudden I see there's a lot more money there. I'm like, what happened? Wasn't something I expected at all. Not at all. I got a refund. From the tax authority. Woo! Got a refund. They didn't tell me. My accountant didn't tell me. I should have this coming. They'll probably tell me in a couple of days or whatever. Right? But all of a sudden, showed up my account. They don't make mistakes. They don't give away money for free, right? Tax authority ain't giving money back for nothing. Calculate it. If you owe them like a dime or something, now the Fed show up at your door. That's the way it works. It's like if you're over a little bit, certainly here, you go a little bit of time over, they're like, all right, you got 2 days to pay it. If not, we're coming, we're going to throw out all your furniture, we're going to this, we're going to that. That's how they get things done. So it might be not so different in other places also. So that was something I didn't expect. Wasn't expecting at all. It's like, wow, that's a very nice amount. Thank you very much. Totally not expected. Yeah. Got a lot of different things to use it for, or potentially use it for. Very good. Not expected. So what do these trials and tribulations do? Why do we go through certain things? Because sometimes, even if it has nothing to do with your soul, it could be something you did, or God wants to bring out certain dormant character traits, and there's only certain ways to do it. Right? Imagine a person feels like you're squeezing out the bottom of the toothpaste. Right? You got toothpaste in there, you don't want to get a new one. So you're like squeezing to get the toothpaste out. That's what we do. Buy a new one? Yeah, I'll get it. I want to squeeze. I want to get the last remaining amount. Sometimes it's what God does to us in different ways. But you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't go through that. But most people might say, I didn't sign up for that. That's not what I wanted. Right? Other people would say, I'll take it again because look what it did. Look at the end result. Even if you tell me, that's the answer to the second part, that even if you tell me it doesn't have to do with being reincarnated, what your soul has to go through now, people could go through any number of suffering because God wants something from you. He wants something from you. Now, years ago, could I have tried to console people that, lost their money and this and that? Yeah, in some ways. Would I have been as successful as I could now because I went through it? Totally different. Right? Would I have signed up for it? Probably not. Right? I'll be totally honest. Probably not. Not an easy thing to go from riches to rags overnight. Totally unexpected. Left holding a lot of different bags and no one there to bail you out and different things. That's kind of hard. Right? Kind of a hard test. But at the same time, it made me grow in other ways. And it gave me the ability to be able to help others going through similar situations, whether it's health issues, or something like that. Now, a person could go through that because God wants you to use certain things, maybe to help others. Someone goes through a difficult marriage, right? Let's say. They go through a very difficult marriage, and let's say they get divorced. But because of what they worked on and what they did, and how hard they had to work, in different ways, what do they do? They became much better people. They were able to help other people because of what they themselves went through. Now, is that the only reason somebody went through it? I'm not going to say it's the only reason. Could be a major reason, right? Could be the main reason. Because now they have the tools because of what they went through and the hardship in order to give over and to help others. So there could be a number of reasons. Mental abuse, psychological abuse. That's also hard. That could be worse in many ways. That could be worse in many ways than physical abuse. Now, physical abuse is bad, no question. No question. But mental abuse can also, right? Psychological abuse can also, take its toll. So the question, becomes, as we always say, if a person learns the book Duties of the Heart, Chovos Levavos as it's known, changes the way you think, changes your mentality, changes who we are, changes how we look at, belief and faith in God, how we see the bigger picture. That's my big thing, seeing the bigger picture. How you're able to get through things, even they might be hard as you can't imagine. Now, does that will everything? Does that mean a person never goes to therapy? No. But I would say, again, and I'm not a therapist, so you can take this with a grain of salt, right? But if a person has the right mentality and the right outlook, I'm not saying even if they've gone through a trauma, it's not going to fix everything. But the outlook of how a person sees things can have a tremendous effect in healing. Because if for instance, let's say someone has family members that are narcissists, and they're just off the wall and this and that, then that's abuse. It's also abuse. How do you deal with it? It's a very hard thing to deal with. They'll put you down. They'll say all kinds of things, and you won't have self-esteem. They'll break down your self-esteem. It's a very hard thing. Extremely hard thing. But these people are not mentally healthy. So even if they go off, they go off the rails and they go off the deep end, right? And they're saying things, right? They're totally saying things that, are negative. You're right. It can have an effect. It can have an effect. It can have a major effect. The older a person gets, it might be too late already, but the older a person gets, unless they went to therapy, they have to be told they didn't do anything wrong. And even if they did, let's say, I don't know, they made a mess, they spilled something, and the parent just went off the rails. And says, saying you're stupid and you're dumb and you're this and you're that. How could you be so clumsy, whatever, call you every name in the book? That's not good for a person's self-esteem. But if that person realizes and they get help understanding that this parent, sibling, whoever it is, that's gone off the rails, they deserve to be in an insane asylum. They're not mentally healthy. Nobody wants to hear it, it's true. But they are not mentally healthy. If they're not mentally healthy, even if they're a parent, they go off the rails, unless, you have to protect yourself physically. You take what they say and you go bink. You knock it off. So people are going to say it's not so easy. Right? Okay. But if a person understands they did their best, okay, they made a mistake. They spilled something, they broke something, they were careless. Okay. Right? They understand they did something wrong. Maybe they understand they did something seriously wrong. Okay. Bottom line, how they view it. How they view when someone comes down on them like a ton of bricks. You're going to say, okay, I got the message, and they keep hammering and making fun and saying, you may believe what they say. Oh, maybe I'm clumsy. Maybe, So if a person takes out of it, I should have been more careful. I shouldn't have done this. You'll be more careful the next time. You don't want this thing to happen. Okay. You could still end up feeling bad about yourself. True. That is very true. But if a person has a healthy understanding of how it all works, and as a kid, it's very hard. Person probably need major therapy for this, but they have to be told that they're not that bad. Okay, they made a mistake. They did something they shouldn't have done. does that mean they should be cursed and be called every other name in the book and be called stupid? And then, no. But if that's all a person has, if that's all they hear, and they keep getting beaten down and beaten down, so they might think that's who I am. Right? But when a person's older, okay, they're going to resent it. They're going to be angry for what the parent put them through. Very true. Probably very, very true. But now if you look back and you say, these people are mentally unstable. They're mentally not healthy. They should have gone for help. They could have been bipolar. Could have been. They'll say maybe it's not their fault. Okay. Right? So someone will ask, and I'll see if someone did ask it. So why go through it? Why does the person have to go through it? So we don't know. Essentially, we don't know. But I can give one, a glimpse, maybe. Person goes through that and they come out of it. They don't just get beaten down, they come out of it. And they realize, what? My parents or siblings or whoever, all of them together, they wouldn't know empathy if they hit it, they got hit in the face with it. They wouldn't know how to boost someone's ego because they don't want to. And they want to beat people down. That's cruel. It's cruel. So that could destroy a person, which I understand. It could also make a person realize at some point, probably have to get help for this, but to see this is not healthy. There's something seriously wrong. But they have to be able to see that they're not the cause of the problem. They might have made mistakes. They may have said things they shouldn't have said, done things they shouldn't have done, but they're not essentially the cause of the problem. They're the scapegoat. So when someone's used as a scapegoat, it's harder to understand. Why you keep yelling at me? Why you keep screaming at me? Why you keep doing this? And a person can do that and give mixed messages, not realize what they're doing. Some other people think that's the way they have to educate their kid. Whatever it may be. What's one way out of it to keep yourself healthy, mentally, is you got to see the bigger picture. So what's the bigger picture over here? These people are insane. They are insane. I have to have a relationship with them somewhat, right? If you have no choice. Probably better to minimize it, but let's say you have no choice. So even a person growing up has to say, I'm not that bad. They have to keep saying it over and over again. Yeah, I might be a work in progress. I might make mistakes, but I'm not as bad as what they're saying. I'm not even close to as bad as what they're saying. I mean, when you're younger, it's hard to do that, right? Therapy would definitely help for that. How does it make you feel? Did you, there are a lot of different ways to look at it. But the point is, person's self-esteem could be destroyed. True. Could very well be destroyed. But at the same time, if they have the ability somehow to see the bigger picture and realize it's not totally their fault and there's something else going on, then the person they're looking at is a shell of who they are. Is a shell of who they are. They deserve to be in a white coat, strung up in some insane asylum. Now, I would say, and I got hammered for saying this, someone hammered me for saying this, that, there's some parents out there should never have kids. But you can't say that. Because if God wants them to have kids, they'll have kids. What are they going to have kids? To torture them? I don't know. Right? I would say, yeah, there are parents that aren't good parents. Right? Let's say. They're not good parents. Maybe they mean well, but they're not good parents. It's not the kid's fault. The kids don't have a choice. The Mission Perikei Avos says in the ethics for our fathers, you're born against your will, you die against your will. Right? But you still have to live. Do you have a choice who your parents are? No. Siblings? No. Socioeconomic situation? No. You don't have a charge of anything. You're not in charge of anything. The question is, how do I deal with it? So that suffering, even as a child, imagine what that person could be if they're mentally healthy. They're not totally destroyed. Imagine how many people they could help because of how the different mechanisms they use to help themselves. But they'll say, you know what the power of that abuse was? You know how strong it was? And they probably wish they could kill their parents with their own hands. Or kids like that. I don't think there's any question. Probably parents want to kill their kids also. Goes both ways. But, but at the same time, one of the reasons can be potentially you didn't do anything to deserve it because you didn't have a choice here. So it could be God's going to bring out all these character traits that you have to go. He has to squeeze out of you like the bottom of the toothpaste to get you to help, to get you the experience to be able to help others in that way. Now, aren't there other ways to do it? Yeah, it could be. But why did God decide to do it this way? I can't answer. I don't know. I don't know why I did this way. But for sure, he's got a whole purpose. Not just for nothing. Now, some reason could be because the person's soul has to suffer. That could be. But there could be plenty of other reasons also. Yeah. Someone asks, is this the same for non-Jews? Non-Jews also go through all kinds of things. Non-Jews don't have tests. Non-Jews have an evil inclination like Jews do. No different. Right? No different. Right? So non-Jews can go through similar things. Yeah. Can they go through reincarnation? Okay, I'm not a big expert in reincarnation. Could be just for Jews, not non-Jews. Coming back. But non-Jews have an evil inclination, no question. Non-Jews can also go through suffering for different things. For all kinds of different things. And you see there are people that are movers and shakers, but they had horrible upbringing. Horrible upbringing. Right? Here's someone example, he's someone like Nissim Black. Anyone doesn't know, happens to be black. He was a rapper. He grew up in a crack house pretty much. Was a Christian, was a born again Christian, became a Muslim, and then eventually came to Judaism. And he says on himself, I'm just using his own words, he should not be alive today. How he grew up. But he's using all that experience and everything that helped him get through and all that. He's using that, not only in his music, but he's using it to help others also. Now, if you were to ask him, is that a great way to grow up? He'll say no. Who's going to want to grow up in such an environment? So, saw the police come and, bust people like all the time, put people in jail. His house is like a crack house. I don't know. Anyone want to sign up for that? I don't think most people want to sign up and live like that. Have that type of life. But the non-Jews have an evil inclination also. They also have a purpose in the world. Everyone's got a purpose in the world. We don't always know what it is. But everybody has qualities that are good that they can use and help other people with it. Everybody does. So how do I know what it is? Everybody knows what they're good at. Everyone has talent. There's not anybody out there has no talent. They definitely have talent. The question is how you use that talent. That's the question. But we're not privy to what we're doing here. Because you never remember, once the soul's in the body, it's not going to remember what it was doing here before. Now, some people have said there's regression. Someone can be under deep hypnosis, and they can talk about past lives. I don't know. One of my rabbis, very much steeped in Kabbalah, said that shouldn't be able to happen. The soul shouldn't be remembered in this world, but it could be only when it's awake, when it's asleep, or or whatever it is, under deep hypnosis. Then maybe they can recollect it. They can recollect it, but not, not when they're physically awake. I don't know. Right? It sounds like a contradiction, so I'm not sure. Right? That I'm not sure. But everyone's got a purpose. There's not nobody that has a purpose here. We may not always, figure it out and how best to use, whatever talent we have, but everybody has talent. Everybody has talent. Everyone knows what we're good at. Some are good at math, some are good at history, some are good, at drawing, some are good at cutting, some are good at planning. So, everyone's got things that they're good at. There's also plenty of things we're bad at. But a person normally knows what they're good at. It's possible to know if your soul is new here or reincarnated. No. Not possible to know. Not in this world. I would tell you most people today, from what I understand, is that most people are reincarnated souls that come back 3 times, maybe possibly 4 times, but we don't know. No one can pinpoint and say, I am a reincarnated soul. I once told, one of my rabbis very much steeped in Kabbalah, I said, if I ever get a hold of my Gilgul, right, of my soul, and all the things I had to go through, so, grab by the neck and say, why do I have to go through all this? Why do you make me go through all this? And his answer was, if you saw his face in the mirror, you looked in the mirror and you saw his face, you wouldn't recognize him. I was like, that's not the point. He's like, that is the point. You don't know. Nobody knows. Right? There's no such thing for Jews in this world, or pretty much for anybody, deja vu. Deja vu, you're in a certain place and you feel something like, oh, I've been here before. Right? Like one of those bad Freddy Krueger movies. Right? Nightmare on Elm Street reference. Like, what am I doing here? Oh, yeah, it's part of the dream. I'm going over and over and over again. You're never going to remember that. In this world, you should never remember. Now, it could be, a person in the living room, they go in the kitchen, they say, oh, what am I doing in the kitchen? They forgot what they're there. That's not deja vu. Deja vu is like I'm standing there and I feel something, or a person, not me, somebody feels something like, something like extraterrestrial, something like they've been here before somewhere, or they sense something. Usually in this world, you're not going to do that. You're not going to know. Because the soul doesn't know. Once the soul's in the body, can't know what it's doing. The body itself will never know. Right? The soul will never be able to manifest in the mind of a person what they're doing. And whether they're reincarnated or not. Now again, someone will say, but I've seen these videos about regression, and how someone was deep in hypnosis, they brought out past life experiences. Again, I can't answer that. That I don't know. That I don't know. And the reason is, because according to what I do know, the soul should never remember. The soul in this world should never remember. So even when it tells me it's not awake, maybe it's not going to remember. When it's not awake, it can remember past lives. When it is awake, it can't. Right? When the person's awake, you'll never remember that. Right? That's what I would say. There's a question. Rabbi mentioned a class. Some of the people who built Tower of Babel were reborn as Hebrew babies in Egypt and used as bricks. This connects the same issue. So I'll tell you like this. Moses himself, the Medrash says, there was a baby that was being plastered into the wall. Plastered used as mortar in the wall. Yeah. And Moses wanted to save the baby. And God said, not a good idea. Moses says, I want to save the baby. God says, go ahead. Moses saves the baby. Who was that baby? I think that baby was Achav, one of the most evil, wicked kings in Jewish history. So God knew what he was doing. He knew the soul of that child, what it was going to be. God wanted it left as mortar, as part of a brick. Moses thought, that looks bad. Let me try and save it. God says, don't do it. Moses does it. That's the repercussions. Yeah, there are different times, and this gets complicated. There are different times in history. You have different people reincarnated. There's a book called Sefer HaGilgulim, the Book of Reincarnation, written by the Arizal of Isaac Luria of blessed memory. And, a rabbi of mine, same rabbi who, very much steeped in Kabbalah, says, anyone who wants to read that book and go through it, it's not translated, but if you go through it, he said, you have to have a lot of fear of heaven. Because if you see what's going on behind the scenes, who's who and who's reincarnated into who and this and that, and what's really going on, right? What's really going on? I'll give one example. It's not really reincarnation, but what could happen? You see that Ruth and Orpah go different directions. Ruth clings to Naomi, she converts. Orpah doesn't. So Ruth's great-grandson and Orpah's great-grandson fight against each other later. You have Goliath going against King David, right? King David coming out from Ruth, Goliath coming out from Orpah. So that's not really reincarnation, but those are repercussions for actions that can come out later generations. So with all these things, yeah, there's there's a lot deeper things going on than what meets the eye, right? So yeah, so now you understand very good, about these Hebrew babies being used as bricks or whatever. So it's not necessarily reincarnation, but that's the result of actions that can have unbelievable repercussions for the future. Yeah, so they killed, someone here mentions if they killed Ishmael, we're taking away his free choice. Okay. But again, it's about judgment. When does the person get judged? Right? You're not going to get punished when the person's a child. They didn't do anything wrong. That's why Ishmael lives. That's why if you knew Hitler, Mr. Adolf was a baby, you knew what he was going to do in the future, you can't kill him. It would be forbidden to kill him. Why would it be forbidden to kill him? Very simple. He's not guilty yet. Someone here identified 90% of converts, or probably tshuva, live in predominantly non-Jewish locations. Okay. Right. Often the victims of abuse or bullying. Could be. Bullying, probably. Abuse, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the I don't know what the stats are. There have been a lot of people, yeah. I would say that probably have been bullied at some point, gone through some abuse. I don't know. Right? I don't know. I don't know that to be true or not. You're gonna tell me, well, they may have baggage, maybe. We all have baggage. Wherever we came from, it's true. It's definitely true. I think most people want to convert, have to be out of their minds to want to convert, especially today. What's going on. But at the end of the day, person does what they need to do. So they can overcome a lot of things in their background. Not about children from the family, the prostitutes, not yet. They're also messed up, right? They're also messed up. People like that are going to need serious therapy to get through life. Most of those people probably either will be on drugs, were on drugs, or even try to commit suicide. Even today, the large percentage of teenagers, Orthodox Jews, that go off and they commit suicide. And unfortunately, there are a lot of them that commit suicide, teenagers, etc. Why? So a person out in the field, I basically heard this many, many times from different people. And most likely the cause of why they go off is because they've been abused. They've been sexually abused. And then just because of the shame, or no one listened to them, or whatever, then they go to drugs and and some of them, God forbid, even commit suicide. So yeah, that's very hard. Right? All the willing in the world's not gonna help that. Right? That you need, that you need real therapy for. And real therapy is not gonna take away all the pain. There are people surviving. There are people who lead normal lives. But I would say at the same time, even though they lead normal lives, nonetheless, they have claims against people who did it. They have claims against the people who, pushed it under the carpet. They didn't want to prosecute. They didn't believe the person or whatever. That major scars. Major scars. Right? These are things, yeah. These are things that, kids come out really messed up. It's true. I'm not saying all the Torah in the world is going to help. You're going to need serious therapy. But I'm saying if a person learns, hopeless levels, and they see there's a bigger picture, I'm not going to say he's going to answer a person who's physically abused. I'm not going to answer it per se. You need other, mechanisms to deal with it. But I would say that seeing the bigger picture can take some of that down. Can take some of that hurt down. Is it going to take all of it down? No. Not going to take all of it down. But yeah, you can have people brought up in really seriously messed up places. Right? The fact that Nissim Black can be normal, I think, is a miracle. I think it's an absolute miracle. Saw people strung out all the time. cops coming in all the time. I mean, he grew up in a seriously messed up place. So the fact that a person like that can be normal, I think, is nothing sheer miraculous. Right? Someone who's physically abused and they can come out of it somehow. I'm not going to say unscarred, but, can lead a normal life. Someone who's psychologically abused. Yeah. Torah's not a quick fix. Don't get me wrong. It's not a quick fix. But I'm saying the older a person gets, a person might be angry, the community didn't do anything, they prosecute, they didn't believe me, this. They could have a lot of claims. True. A lot of claims. And they could be right. But what I'm saying is that if they see the bigger picture later, but they have to get this anger out, they have to get this bias out. But if they're able to see, okay, for whatever reason, God used this person to get to you, used your parents psychologically to get to you. Right? And they're the stick. So you're gonna say, well, what I deserve that? Good question. But if a person, let's say, they're able to come out of it somehow, but they come out of it 10 times stronger. They come out of it 10 times stronger. That's a huge thing. So you're gonna say, but I didn't deserve to go through it. And people were bullied. Usually someone who's bullied, is gonna bully someone else. Unless they learn how to deal with anger. And deal with all that. I'm not saying Torah, don't misquote me. I'm not saying Torah fixes everything. It doesn't. It doesn't. I'm saying, but if you understand the bigger picture at some level, it can take certain things down. Maybe 20%, maybe 30%. I think sometimes it could be higher than that. It could be wrong. It depends what it is. It depends the extent of what happened to a person. For some people, it won't even take 5% because they're just so angry and they're so bitter and, whatever. I know someone like, extremely upset at, at a parent and because of what they did, different things. Which, I can understand to a point. I can understand to a point, but you got to get over it. You got to learn how to deal with it. Being angry the whole time is not going to help. It's not worth it to have someone in your head like that. And the person, and I would say, if a person never knew how to empathize, they're never going to learn how to empathize. They only care about themselves and their narcissists. It's very hard to deal with such a person. True. It is very true. So you speak about nothing, right? You speak about what they want to speak about. You go on with your life, and that's it. You have minimal contact. That's what you have to do. Is it painful? Yeah. They're never going to have any part of your life? Yeah. But that's what it is. Now, you're going to blame them? You're going to drag them to therapy? They're not going to therapy. They don't think there's anything wrong with it. They don't think there's anything wrong. Yeah, but at the same time, there's a screw loose. There's a major screw loose. So, the question is how you deal with it. Is that neglect? Could be. They don't feel the warmth. They only feel, what they want to give them and not what they really want. Yeah, there's a lot of pain there. But if you understand, and some of that will never change. Probably none of it will change over time. So the question is, what's my mentality to deal with it? You could curse them all the time, never speak to them. Yeah, you could do that. You could have minimal relationship. You could do that. But if you see the bigger picture, say, listen, it's not their fault. That's who they are. They have a mental illness. They're not going to get it checked. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. The question is, how am I supposed to answer that? How am I supposed to deal with it? Right? That's the question. That essentially, right? That essentially is the question. Now, that's not easy. But if I understand this person is sick mentally, they're sick mentally. And so what they say, they have a 25 IQ. But the problem is, someone's going to say, but it's still painful. Okay. Over time, how much of that pain is going to hurt because they're mentally incompetent? It's painful. Like I said, I know someone 30 years, more, still got the same anger. I would say get over it. Go to therapy, If a person doesn't have the ability to emote or do other things, they're lacking. Okay, so a person feels the lack. Good. They feel the lack. They feel that the person doesn't really love them. Even if they say they do, it doesn't mean much. Okay, that's true. I'm not saying you blow it off. It's painful. But if you understand, you're never going to get it. And you're never going to get the pat on the back. And they're never going to say nice things. They're just going to scrutinize everything you do. So you have minimal contact. Okay. But at the end of the day, my mentality is they're incompetent. You have to have something that's going to boost your morale. Something that's going to give you, what's it called? Not having an ego, but having self-esteem. So if a person has self-esteem, this person might try and knock it down, but they're going to say, okay, they're mentally challenged. What do I care? I know people that, came from messed up families, but what did they have for themselves? When they were in school, they had scholastics, they had athletics, people were in the band, people did other things. Okay, they went home to a messed up home. Okay, but they had other things that gave them that ability to survive. Even with all the craziness. Again, you can take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. A lot of this needs heavy therapy also. That's for sure. I'm just saying to have a clear, Torah perspective, to see where it comes from and what the purpose is for me. Okay, it's hard. There's no question. We speak about this all the time. It's hard. But if I live this mantra and I say, God's the one in control, nobody can hurt me. Sticks and stones, that's what it is. I don't care if it's from a parent, a sibling, a child. Doesn't matter. They can say the meanest thing. I had somebody tell me once, I was somewhere, I shouldn't have been. Someone said, it's embarrassing to be seen with you in public. That's kind of harsh. And I probably shouldn't have been where I was. Okay. You know what that can do to someone's, psyche? You tell someone like it's embarrassed to be seen with you? I'm like, what? I'm like a slob? It's like I'm unkempt, my shirt's out and whatever. I look like a total slob. They weren't saying it like that. I know what they meant. You look too Jewish. That's what they meant. Okay, so maybe, in this place I shouldn't have been. Very good. Yeah. So that can knock you down a few pegs. That can make you think, wow, am I doing the right thing? Maybe the person's right. Maybe that. But if you have a head on your shoulders in general, a little bit of an ego without being conceited, and this person says that, what do you want to do? What's the first thing you want to do? You want to take your Louisville Slugger. You want to slug him. Take a baseball bat. Or if you're English, you take a wicket. And you slug him. Or her. That's what you want to do. You're going to say you're embarrassed. So go, scram. I don't need to be with you. Right? So they're doing it just to put you down and make themselves look better. But if you have a fragile ego, they can demolish you. So at that time it happened. I certainly don't have the ego I have now, by any stretch. But if that would happen today, I'd laugh. I'd say, okay, so you're embarrassed, your problem. Go eat kugel. That's what I would tell them. Go eat kugel. They don't like it. They're a self-hating Jew and you're an anti-Semite. Okay. Won't even lose any sleep over it. Not one iota. It's a strong statement to make. Very strong. This person can't even read Hebrew. This person might have over 100 IQ, might be brilliant, yeah, maybe, in that world. Can't hold a finger to what I do, or what most Orthodox Jews do. Okay, but that's how they look at it. I'm going to sit there and think twice about it. Let them in my head and say, no, use it for one of my classes. I'm going to get angry, but what am I going to get angry for? Person has a 25 IQ when it comes to Torah. I'm not going to worry about it. Because they get so painful. Look what they say. So what? People say a lot of things. They get diarrhea of the mouth. They talk. What do they talk about? Nothing. Nothing has any value. So I'm going to take it seriously. I'm absolutely not going to take it seriously. We go on the line of politicians, so whatever. let's say Obama's Pharaoh from the Exodus. Okay, you got. Let's keep in mind one thing, going politicians and all that and what's going on. Yeah, let's just say one thing. Leiv malachim b'yad Hashem. The heart of a person, the heart of a king, is in the hands of God. God uses politicians, monarchs, kings, whatever, uses them like silly putty to do what he wants. So yeah, you can look at these people in previous generations, doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. This one like this. People will say that, Trump is a good part of Aesop, right? And why, whether you like him or not, what he tried to do and why, why the inclination came out and knocked him off and different things. Okay, there is what to be said for all this in a much deeper way. It's true. I'm not going to go there, but it's very true. What's going on. Yeah, let me see 1 second. There are other questions here. Somebody asks, if a person was born a Jew, got reincarnated as a Christian, reincarnated as a Muslim, joined Hamas, a person get reincarnated and they get reincarnated and a person get reincarnated into a frog, to a toad, to a wall, to an animal, right? They could, in theory, right? They could definitely, in theory. Again, they're only coming back a few times, right? So even if they came back as a Christian, came back as a Muslim, for whatever reason, God could put someone, come back as a communist. I don't know, because they have, certain things that they have to go through, right? Now, the question is going to be, which I'm not going to answer, but the question is going to be, a non-Jew wants to convert. So we say that their soul must have been on Mount Sinai. Their soul must have been on Mount Sinai, because that makes sense logically. I don't care if they came out of Christianity, they came up with all these great ideas against Christianity, and now they want to be a Jew, right? It doesn't make logical sense, because the Jews have been gas burned and all that throughout the millennium. You see what's going on today. So I would say that's impossible. It's impossible for a non-Jew to come to this unless their soul was already Jewish. Now, the $1.5 million question is, how did that soul become not Jewish? That's a good question. How does that work? Right? How in the world does that work? Right? How does that work? So that's a good question. So that's Kabbalah. How it can change. Right? But in theory, could a person go from one religion to another reincarnated? Yeah, in theory. Why? We're not going to ask that question because we're not God. We don't know. It has to do with whatever the soul has to go through, whatever the soul has to fix up. Is reincarnation an act of free will? No. Wait a minute. Is an act of free will? Yeah. God gives the person the opportunity, gives the soul an opportunity either to go to Gehenna and get punished, right, and get seriously punished. There'll be something left to them, or they could go back to this world and get fixed up. They're given a choice, right? As far as I understand, they're given a choice if they want to come back or not. That I think is true. That they are given that choice, right? Soul can choose his parents. No. That you don't have a choice. Where you go, see, God has to cajole the soul in order to get into a body, because the soul, remember, is in God's world, it's in the spiritual world. The soul doesn't want to leave. So for the soul to go in a body, God has to sort of like convince the soul to go out, and then he puts it in the body. Does that soul have a choice? We mentioned this before. Does that soul have a choice which body it goes into? No. Mishnah Pirkei Avos already says that, right? It says in Ethics of Our Fathers, you're born against your will, you die against your will. So whatever soul you have that goes into a body, it's not your choice. You're not given that choice. God is putting that together. How that works, why God put you in this body, not someone else's body, and not this family and someone else's family, that's what God's doing. That's what God is doing. So it's not an act of free will, right? A person's born in a corrupt environment. Again, it's not your choice. You could be born in a wealthy environment. You could be born in a poor environment. You could be born with all the gifts from God, be a great athlete. You could be, not. You could have parents that are narcissists. You could have not. I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? The possibilities are endless, right? So his parents taught him to steal in his previous life as a Jewish priest. Of course, he's liable, right? The soul has a free slate when it comes back to this world. Whatever the soul does in this world, it doesn't matter where it came from, right? Let's make that clear. The soul could have been, one of the most righteous people, maybe, right? Comes back to this world and ends up, in the worst environment. Yeah, could happen. I mean, that's likely to happen, but in theory, yeah, anything, is possible to a point. Are they going to be liable? Sure, they're going to be liable. There's no question. Doesn't matter where they came from before. It's what they do now, right? It's what they do now. Usually, that's not going to be the case. Usually it won't be as righteous, or it'll have to, be put, be tempted in different situations to fix up whatever it has to. It could fail. It could fail or pass. Just Islam's the truth. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. There are other questions here. 1 second. Therapy didn't help at the time. It's a waste of money. Okay. Is it better? Okay, therapy doesn't fix everything. True. Could be true. Is it better to hear only your mistakes and what you did wrong and never be praised? No. Because that just breaks a person. A person needs to hear they do good things. Person needs that for their, not just for their ego, just for their, what's the word for self-esteem? They want to hear they do things that are good. If you only hear you do things bad, right? Well, how are you going to end up? You're going to think you're the worst person. Because I did this bad, I did that bad. It doesn't matter you repented or not. You did things wrong. People want to hear that they do things that are good. All right, I heard a great rabbi say that is one of the single biggest problems today, right? In the Orthodox world is kids do not have a self-esteem. So you have to build them up. You tell them how great they are, what their potential is, what they could do. I said he's not going to make someone conceited. He says, yeah, I can work with that also. That's not the problem. People have to be built up. They have to be taught, they have to be told a lot of times, oh, what a great thing. Even something very small, something very, very small. They should be praised for it. It should be 90% praise, 10%, or even less negative thing. It should be praised, right? Never getting praised is bad. It's bad for the person because they don't have self-esteem. Where are they going to get self-esteem from? If someone has something to get self-esteem from, let's say they were good academically, they got praised for that. Or they were good, on the ball field or whatever. That's a good thing. It makes the person feel good. They never hear good things. A person feels like they're nothing. They're less than nothing because no one ever praised them. Right? A person needs to hear good things. They need, anyone who's parenting and has kids, you have to, they have to hear majority of things that come out of your mouth. I think it's 80-20. Should be higher than that, but I think it's 80-20. 80% of the time should be positive things. Positive things to your kids, not negative. Because they're only going to remember the negative. So you want to say as many positive things as you can. Someone here mentioned never got therapy. I don't think it would have helped. Okay. Listen, you got therapy is like buying a car. It's like getting married. It's like finding the right person to marry. I'm not gonna say you have to be lucky, right? But you have to have the right person. You have to have the right messenger, the right shaliach, to be able to help a person. And sometimes it's hard to find that. I know, a number of people have said, they got burnt in therapy and until they find the right person, or they never found the right person. It's not so easy. I would agree, right? That is not so easy. And for some, again, for some people, some people I would say, yeah, family therapy would be good, but if people aren't going to change, what are you going to do? So the only thing you can do is try and work through the situation yourself to change yourself and how you view it. That's a big thing. Even if no one else changes, how are you going to deal with it? That's the question, right? So for that alone, it could help. Just to help a person get from A to B, going through what they need to go through in order to deal with that situation. Even if the other person's never going to change. Take someone who's narcissistic. They ever going to change? Never going to change. Never think there's anything wrong with them. So the only question is, how are you going to deal with that person? How are you going to speak to that person? How are you going to have anything to say to that person when they show no empathy? They seem only to care about themselves. How are you going to have a conversation with them? It's going to drive you crazy. So you have to have mechanisms how to deal with it, right? That person's never going to change. They ain't coming to therapy. They need to go to therapy. They need to go to therapy to see the repercussions of their actions and what they say and how other people are affected by it, whether they're going to change or not, whatever. But if they're not coming to therapy and they ain't going to change, there's only one. There are a few things to do. Either you never speak to the person. That's a possibility, right? Or you figure out mechanisms how to deal with whatever they say and how to get on with life. Now, I'm not going to say it's an easy thing. That could be a lifetime of work. But if you already know the other person ain't going anywhere, not doing anything, the question is how you deal with it. Right? That's the question. Someone says, I found CBT to be useless. Okay. There are a lot of different, types of therapy. Like I said, I'm not a therapist by any stretch. There's a group called Nefesh International, right? A lot of therapists here, very good. In the States, that's very true. They have, a lot of referrals, different things. Again, you want to go also, anyone who has to go to therapy, you definitely want to go to a therapy to somebody who's sympathetic to your outlook, to your outlook in life, i.e., as a Jew in training, as a Noahide or whatever, that outlook in life. Because if not, they're going to blame all your problems on that. They're going to say, oh, you got this problem with your mother or, with a sibling or this and that. No, it's because you're too rigid. It's because your religion's too rigid. It's because of this, because of that. So you got to find someone who's like-minded that, they're going to understand your way of life. And when they understand your way of life, that's a different thing. Right? That would be a different thing. Someone asked, do you believe in reincarnation? Yes. 100%. It is a Jewish concept. Certainly brought down a lot in Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. If yes, do you believe someone needs to die in order to reincarnate in another body? That's the only way it happens, right? Person's a body and a soul, right? So the soul is going to get up, get judged, and the soul may be given an opportunity to come back and go into another body. That's the only way it can happen. But that's only after the person dies, and then I don't know what the time frame is if that soul is given the opportunity to come back, what's the time frame? I don't know. But that's how it's going to happen. So the answer is yes. And how can the reincarnation be true if all started from Adam and Eve? What do you mean? Right? Everyone agrees. I think it's been proven, even scientifically, that all mankind came from two people. Started from two people. Right? I think even science agrees with that. So I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure the question, right? Why? How can reincarnation be true if it started from Adam and Eve? What's the difference? That's after the fact. Even after God created Adam and Eve, who says reincarnation didn't happen? Didn't happen. You're right. Didn't happen with Adam and Eve. That's true. That is true. But they say that I think Abel came back as was Moses' reincarnation of Abel. Right, of heaven, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, Adam and Eve, true. There wasn't reincarnation before them, right? It's only after, right? But that's not a contradiction, right? That's not a contradiction over here. It just didn't happen until after, which is true. Sexual abuse, I can't answer. Why would someone be reincarnated and have to go through that or be mentally challenged for other things they've done? Maybe in a previous life, they bullied someone or they abused someone. Yeah, even psychologically, let's say. Not physically. So God says, okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get fixed up. Your soul's going to get fixed up. What's going to happen? Your soul's going to get in a body. The same thing's going to happen to you. What you did to other people, someone is going to do to you. I'm not saying that person necessarily sexually abused other people, right? But whatever that person did to deserve it, yeah, that person had it coming. That soul had it coming for what it did in the previous life. Because really, and again, we'll make it easy, and you can take what I say with a grain of salt here, right? In general, and that is, someone's going to get sexually abused, they're not asking for it. They're taken against their will. Totally taken against their will. Yeah. So if that happens to someone, you could say, well, it's not a godly world. It's their bad luck. It's their bad luck it happened, but we don't believe in that. Right? So everything is calculated. So God used this person as a stick to get to the other person. You'll say, well, that's a really perverse way of doing it. So again, what did the person do in a previous life? If someone didn't deserve it, which we're going to say they didn't, right? Someone did not deserve that to happen. Okay, so why did it happen? So they must have done something previously that's part of the payback they have to get. Because otherwise, you're going to say there's no rhyme or reason for anything. That should never happen. That should never happen. What could the person have possibly done in order to deserve that in a previous life? I can't answer. It could be many things. Could be many, many things. A lot of this is measure for measure. Why did the person get bullied in this life? Let's say they get bullied a lot in this life, because they probably did it when they were, in a previous life, or they did other things, and that was a payback. So there's a payback. Because you can't say they weren't asking for it. They didn't ask to be abused in this way. They didn't ask to be bullied. Right? They didn't bring that on themselves. If you brought it on yourself, it's one thing. Right? If you didn't bring it on yourself, then either there's only one or two choices here. Right? Most people take the first choice, and that is no rhyme or reason for anything. God's not in control. But if God is in control, so then that's payback for something they must have done in the previous life. That's the only explanation. What did they do in the previous life? I'm not God. I don't know. I'm not even going to guess. Not even going to guess over here. But who knows? They probably did nasty things, and that's why. Do we reincarnation? Answered that. Is there any case someone who converted was cured from disability illness is born with? I don't know. That I do not know. Yeah, that I don't know. Someone asked, does a sex offender have to make up sin through reincarnation if the act also happened before the age of 20? Could be. Right? Someone's a sex offender. Even if they did it when they're younger, they still could be punished in this world. They could still be seriously punished, even if they're not punished from heaven. Right? And it could be, in that case, they do something to someone else. God's just using them as a stick, but they're going to be liable. So the question is still going to be, if they're not punished till the age of 20, again, that's for something they do in this world. If they're born that way, they're born mentally challenged, again, that's not punishment. Right? That's not what we're talking about. But you're going to tell me if someone did it before, is that punishable? Could be. Right? It could be. Definitely could be. But there, these things are hard to say. They're very hard to say. But at the end of the day, the only thing we can say is that someone that has that done to them, and again, it's against their will, that's onus. They didn't, we're saying that they didn't ask for it. They didn't cause it. So if they didn't cause it, it has to be, that makes sense otherwise, because God runs the world. So it has to be that something, they must have done whatever in order, in the previous life in order for that to happen. But that person's for sure liable. Person who does it's for sure liable. Right? Whether they're going to get punished at the age of 20, before or not, that I don't know. That I don't know. They could. It could definitely get punished earlier. Right? Does it depend on the severity? I don't know. I don't know if it does or not. Some things may be punishable. It doesn't say it'll never be punishable, right? I don't think that's what it says. Right? Let me just double check that. 1 second here. Let me just double check that. 1 second. Right. See if I can check it. Yeah, so the question is, until the age of 20, a person will not suffer heavenly punishment. Right? It doesn't mean they can't. It's not saying it never happens. It's just saying in general, usually that doesn't happen. But it could happen. Who says it's never going to happen? Right? Who says it's never going to happen? Right? So it could happen. I would say it could happen. Yeah. Any other questions? How do we know if Hashem has forgiven us? Don't be OCD, obsessive compulsive. If a person, how do we repent? You have remorse and regret for what you've done. You have to have serious remorse and regret. You got to say you're never going to do it again. And if it's between man and God, comes Yom Kippur, all things being equal, you properly repent. That's it. You don't have to worry about it. We can always second guess. Very easy. We can always second guess. Maybe I didn't do enough of this. I didn't do enough of that. I didn't do this. Very well, we could. You'll drive yourself nuts. Don't do it. Don't overthink. You can always say, I could have done better. Could have. Did I do enough? You probably did enough. Because if you say you didn't do enough, then you drive yourself crazy. Right? If you've gone through the proper channels, you've gone through Yom Kippur, God granted you atonement, you don't have to worry. Now, you can tell me, I could have done it better. Yeah, I could have. I could have done this, but I could have. Doesn't mean you didn't get atonement. Right? Well, we saw one of the great commentators, Kuyakar, says that you do what you're supposed to do. But you don't know what's in God's mind. God may think you didn't do enough. Okay, you can't worry about that. You have to do what you need to do to the best of your ability. But you could drive yourself crazy and say, maybe it wasn't fully to my best of my ability. Maybe I slacked. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe. Could very well be. But at the end of the day, don't drive yourself crazy. Do what you need to do to the best of your ability. You go through Yom Kippur, and that's it. You don't have to worry. Right? That's what I would tell you. How do you stop overthinking it? That's the work of Moreno Rabbeinu the Eitzar. That's the evil inclination. That is the evil inclination. You can't overthink it. Kick the evil inclination in the head and say, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving in. Right? We all have to do more. So you're going to say, I never did repentance properly. Maybe. Then you're never going to do anything. Because then you're going to have it always in your mind. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Yeah, I could have. Don't fake yourself out and say, well, I did the minimal and that's good enough. No. You do to the best of your ability. You move on. You can't overthink it. How do you not overthink it? You got to cut yourself a little bit of slack. This is the work of the evil inclination. Yeah, so you don't want to overthink it. Someone asked, I'm not sure the question, what is hard Torah to learn? There's a lot of hard Torah to learn. Right? Kabbalah is hard Torah to learn. Chumash is hard Torah to learn. Why do I say it's hard? Because you look at what goes on in Genesis, it's very hard to understand. Laws of ribbis, lending with interest, very complex. Very hard to understand. Yeah, laws of inheritance, hard to understand. I mean, a lot of things. A lot of things. The laws of Shabbos hard to understand. I can give you a whole list. I would tell you like this: if you're learning very well, everything's hard. If you're asking a lot of good questions. Someone has the eighth knows everything hard to fool you. How do you not overthink it? Again, the evil inclination works 24/7. So you got to work hard against it. You got to fight hard against it. It does everything right. So you have to have enough of your head on your shoulders to say, okay, I did the best I can. Leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Get out of my head. Go have a piece of fruit. Go eat something. Don't let it drive you crazy, because it could. But that's what the Yetzer Hara does. So you got to figure out ways to overcome the Yetzer Hara. All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time, on a good schedule now, back on normal schedule. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Rabbi Chaim Coffman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. And you want to send me an email, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Torah portion of the week, Book of Leviticus, ethics of our fathers, controversial issues. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimcoffman@gmail.com, whichever is good. Beginning of the day.